Okay, my name is Robert Hirsch. I am the CEO of Continuum Protocol, which is a software development company that makes blockchain software, and the founder of Zkalyx, one of four founders of Zkalyx, a blockchain project that I'm here to discuss in elevating the entire industry through cross-chain connectivity in ways that are not currently done. We are going down the road of true trustlessness and decentralization, and once we've done this, we can actually have an economy and a platform ready for real enterprise. So let me talk about the state of the art so that we can understand the problem. The state of the art is Bitcoin came out, decentralized, trustless, that's fine. But as we wanted more utility beyond Bitcoin being its own utility, we started focusing towards more centralization, and custody became acceptable. We have multi-sig smart contracts, we have oracles and oracle networks, and we have a preponderance of layer zeros, layer twos, layer threes. To understand what I mean, we need to talk about the industry as it currently stands. We had Bitcoin, which was very decentralized, trustless in nature on its own. Bitcoin's utility is that it's Bitcoin. In order to get more utility into our industry, we have unfortunately veered towards some centralization and custody in order to grant ourselves the utility for us to use it. This utility shows up in multi-sig smart contracts, where no matter how they do it, there's somebody responsible for signatures getting into these smart contracts. We have oracles and oracle networks that are very many for each blockchain. It's hard to fund across these networks and centralize the funds within those oracle networks. And then we have a whole gamut of layer zeros, layer twos, layer threes, and it's very confusing and very disorienting. Each of those bridges into each of those layer twos and layer threes are more examples of centralization and custody. We are claiming that if we can get rid of custody and go towards more decentralization, we'll have a better economy and a better platform for the entire world. Centralization and custody are the problem. So that's what we're fixing. All-in-one blockchains, EVMs, and so forth, they're fine within themselves, but they can't really scale to accommodate all of our economy. Certainly they can go faster. The way they do that is either by centralization, and we see that in blockchain stopping, even though they get speed, or very few validators making them vulnerable. So scaling doesn't happen through a single blockchain, no matter how fast it goes. We also have trust minimized heresy is what we call it. Trust minimized is trusted. So no matter how little trust is required to make something happen, it's still trusted, it's still vulnerable. We can actually get around that. That leads to bridge hacks, rug pulls, exit scams. These are all artifacts of having any sort of trust in a blockchain project at all. Finally, businesses need secure systems. So if we can make it trusted, if we can get rid of these problems, make it so that you can deploy blockchain solutions anywhere safely, not worry about bridge hacks and rug pulls and all those kind of things, businesses can actually be attracted to deploy their infrastructure, deploy their utility onto blockchain and the blockchain economy. That's where we come in. That's how Zkalyx is the solution. We have three parts. It's a truly trustless way to interconnect blockchains together. The first part is we call the cross bond. It is a technology that directly bonds blockchains together with no bridge. Blockchain directly to blockchain, layer one to layer one. The second technology from there is called service chains. These are layer one blockchains that provide all the utility of any smart contract. So all the utility that we see all over our space is implementable in their own blockchain safely. And finally, we have a layer one of ourselves called Zkalyx. And it's important because we need to demonstrate this, we need to build this out, we need to provide a lot of utility, and we need to show how this is done from service chains to main chain and other service chains. That's what we're using our main chain for. Since we have a main chain, we're implementing some unique things to it that are not seen in the industry that we think are important for other blockchains to adopt. This is an important slide here. It's so you can understand the difference between what happens now and where we're going. This slide here on the left here, you can see that everything right now, at best, is trust minimized. In our view, that's just trusted. So the endpoints into blockchains, I'm calling them EVMs along the bottom here. At some point, that is a trusted system. Whether you rotate keys, whether you have 100 keys, no matter what, somebody's responsible for it. That means bad people can get in there. chain. No matter what, if it's trusted for somebody, it's an exploitation for somebody else. The relay networks are also relatively, you can think of as point of centralization. The networks themselves are where cache is being held in their bridges, in these oracles from chain to chain. And we can get rid of all of that. So if you look over on the right, what we're indicating here is that a single blockchain can talk directly to another single blockchain without an intermediary. You do not have to choose what bridge you take to get from one blockchain to another blockchain. We're also showing in this image down in the lower left here, a service chain can be directly connected like any other blockchain because it is a layer 1 to any blockchain. So any blockchain can have the utility that any service chain provides. So let's go down deeper into each of these things. The cross-bond, which is our fundamental technology, is what links blockchains directly together without bridges. We call it a universal translator because it doesn't really matter what blockchain you use. If you deploy our technology in it, eventually Bitcoin can talk directly to Ethereum if they both had this in this. That's really what that fundamental technology does. It's a ZK proof based protocol, and basically what's happening is it's secured. The cross-bond leverages supported chains finality for validation, and by doing that, that's how you can get funds from one chain represented on another chain directly, and you don't need to figure out how you got it there. Unfortunately, or fortunately, connecting two main chains together is the least interesting part of this. More interesting is service chains. So this allows modular architecture and unbound utility. So anything you can do in a smart contract or in a smart contract platform, you can do with a service chain, and it'll be safer to get to, and safer for the whole system, for the whole economy to trust. It's independent. A service chain it doesn't matter what another service chain is doing, unlike two projects on, say, Ethereum. If you're trying to have a business on a chain, they could stop the chain. Another project could be successful, making the block time or fees volatile, and that you can't have a business like that. If you use a service chain, you are in control, or your project is in control of by its own network and not coupled to other networks. Adaptability. So since it's the service chain that you developed, it's a layer 1. You can use whatever programming language you want to do. You can have whatever consensus protocol you want to have. None of that, it's all customizable however you like. It's adaptable to any industry. It's interoperable, so any chain that deploys our cross-bond can absolutely be connected to any service chain that wants to represent it. And it's scalable, so instead of trying to get blockchains to go a bazillion TPS, the idea here is if you have utility, you're going to put it on your layer 1 service chain and just fire off at whatever needs you have and not worry about anybody else. So finally, let me talk about the Zkalyx layer 1 blockchain itself. So this is basically a whole ecosystem that's important because the most important part are the service chains that are providing all of the utility. So let's talk about fees for a second. So service chains, obviously they've got validators, they want to get paid, so they have fees. If you want to use the service on a service chain, you will pay a fee, of course, just like anything else that we do. Those fees are shared. Those fees are shared in our service chains that we will be developing. Anybody can develop service chains. This is open source. In the service chains that we will be developing, 50% go to the validators on the service chain. 40% goes to us in the ones we develop, but can go to the founder. You can route them to the founders, their treasury, and you can also trickle up fees back up to the main chains. So this is how we're doing it in our chain. Other chains can deploy the same technology and do it differently, but 10% of the fees on the service chain is going to trickle back up to the main chain. This makes a rewarding atmosphere for everybody in the ecosystem here. Main chain people want utility. They want it in other service chains because they will gather some of the fees from that. They also want to secure the main chain. So all of that works together to encourage more utility on other chains that are directly bonded to the main chain. The second interesting part about our blockchain is that we acknowledge that there needs to be inflation. Bitcoin is inflating at the moment. It's the way you reward validators. There's not a doubt about that. But the mistake most people make is either they inflate forever or they do silly kind of burn things because they realize they made a mistake. Instead, what we're proposing is that when the fees coming up from the series of service chains is high enough, we turn off inflation. It's algorithmic. We don't do anything. It's decentralized. So in our blockchain, our layer 1 blockchain, Zkalyx, when the fees from all the service chains that are bonded to it go up high enough, and we don't need inflation anymore. People are being rewarded on the service chains like they should be. If it goes back down, it could turn back on again. So that's the difference between our inflation model and the other ones that are out there. That's the difference between how our fee structures work. It's all truly decentralized. Once we deploy, that's how it is. There are some other things we want to stick on our main chain, but you've seen these in other chains. We have deployable validators, like one-click validators that people can do. On-chain subscriptions is a technology we developed for another blockchain. On-chain DAOs, another technology we developed for another blockchain. And name servers, in-chain name servers. And so that's some of the things we want to put in our main chain. But the most important ones are the inflation control and the fee schedules. We claim this technology and our deployment of it impacts the industry in an incredibly positive way. We recognize our whole industry being a bunch of silos. And when I say that, nobody fights me on this. So you've got tribes, you've got cults, you've got silos. It's hard to get out of the chain that you're in. That's why the bridges exist. So we intend on breaking down those walls. It should be easy. It should be free trade between all of the blockchains. If a blockchain is better for some reason or another, you should be able to move funds to and from it. That's what this technology does. You don't need a special bridge. So interoperability it's not even the right word, since that usually means bridges. It is true bonding from one blockchain to another that's fully trustless. Scalability also, it means that you can have as many service chains as you want. Unbound utility in everything all over the world connected to whatever chains you want once this technology is deployed. Utility, of course, is good for users. They don't need a special coin to do the thing. They can use whatever coins they have to go into the service chains, use the utility that they want, and get right back out. They are sending from their address to their address. There's no special smart contract address or anything like that. Connected chains are easily, have funds easily transferred between them. Developers have a new advantage also in that since these are their chains, they can develop in whatever language they want. They're not Solidity based. They can be, I guess, but they can use Rust, C, whatever they want to use. So that is more inclusive to more developers. They can also use whatever consensus models they want and focus on how strong their consensus model is. They can rely on the main chain for security and do speed on their service chain. There's a whole bunch of, I hate to pin down specific ones because they can really do whatever they want. Onboarding businesses is key here because now they don't have to say, well, I'm scared I'm going to put it on this chain or that chain. They're going to put their own chain and connect it to the chains that they want to. That's the key here. They no longer have to worry about if they pick the right one. They can adapt it for their own business. They can adapt it for what chains they want to connect to. But also importantly, it provides credibility. So if we are producing utility on smart contracts, there is always the fear of a rug pull. There is always the fear of that something's not right. Whereas if it's a chain, you can see the number of validators. You can see activity happening. You can measure the legitimacy of a service chain based on dynamics in the service chain itself. It makes it much safer for everybody else. Finally, the opportunities for everybody, investors and validators alike, grow. Validators now have way more selections on how they want to route their compute power. We're going to create tools to make that easy for them. And investors have new ways to invest. Some ways are more traditional. For example, there can be governance tokens that attract fees, more like dividends that they're used to in like fiat land. They can have coins if they want to. They can have a coin-based equity that grows if they want to, or they can just invest in the coins that they already have and just run validators. There's many more ways. Having a system like this makes it so that people can be creative in new ways to earn and invest. Finally, for this part of the presentation, you've seen things like this. We have a chain and it's good for everything, but we really mean it. And we mean it because since moving funds from one to another is now trustless and safe, these industries can grow into blockchain if they want to. Supply chain, splitting up AI compute, any of those things can now be safely done because you're not relying, if you want a fast chain, you're not relying on it being centralized. If it's a slow chain, you're not relying on coupled economies. All of that part gets better. Gaming in particular, you can have a service chain for assets for these set of games, a service chain for assets on these set of games. You can have a marketplace that talks to multiple service chains. All of this stuff is connected together trustlessly in ways we can't do right now. The most important part for developers and for all of this is they can develop once and deploy everywhere. So if you can think about a single tether, you can make Tether on its own service chain, connect to the chains that you want Tether represented on. You don't have to develop other tethers. You don't have to keep track of the tethers on various chains. There's a lot of different examples of service chains like this. DEXs are another one. You can develop one, connect it to the chains that you want it connected to, and represent the products of those chains natively. Healthcare and government has always been difficult, and the reason is there are parties within healthcare and government that do not trust each other. The only way to get trust within a system that has parties that do not trust each other is with algorithmic consensus. Blockchain is perfect for that, but we can't get people into it for all the reasons I described. This industry is rife with abuse. This project fixes that. Once we fix that, we can get these industries in here. Let me talk about the team. Right now there's the 4 founders. There's myself, I'm Robert. I have a PhD from Rensselaer Polytechnic. I've only done startups for my entire life. I'm now 56. And I've got a number of patents and so forth. So everything I have done is technical development, from consumer products to fuel cells to solid state hydrogen pumps, and now to blockchain. My CTO, Herman, he is an algorithmic math and cryptography expert. He has already worked in a blockchain, already worked with teams building core blockchain technologies. Tomas is our COO. He got most of his skills working at Procter & Gamble. I have not worked with somebody in 55 years that is this good at making sure that there are procedures in place, people can follow the procedures, and everybody has what they need to proceed. And finally, we have Jason, who has worked mostly in customer relations. That's how we're going to be using him. He's very technical, but his real skills are in customer relations. So for us, customers are mostly potential partners, people who run blockchains. We want to bring them into the system and to help them with their customers within the Zkalyx environment or their own. We've been working together for 3 years. Between us, we have decades of technical experience and also many years of blockchain experience. I've been in it since 2013. Jason's been in it since 2013. And I think our newest member has been since 2017. We're going to come out of the gate with a supply of 21 billion coins. The reason for that is that we intend the coins to be psychologically cheap. It's a fee coin. So we want people to understand like the numbers. So if it's a single, coin to get a transaction done, that's better than 0.00000 whatever, or having some other thing. That's why we put so many, that's why we were working in the billions. So we'll come out with 21 billion. The inflation takes you to 106 billion. However, as I mentioned, we don't expect to ever get there. The inflation will stop when utility is high enough. So that's how we are going to be avoiding that. So I can't tell you what the max supply is when inflation stops. It depends on how great this works out. Distribution, right now we're doing private sales. 20% of the coins will go towards private sales. This first sale is 2% of the coins. And then we are going, of the 21 billion, we'll be keeping 80% for future work. That future work in our treasury will be coins and the money that we raise. 50% will go to grants. The reason for this is we want help and we want to be super inclusive on building out the service chains. Everything has to do with the service chains. All the utility, the way we fix this industry is building out service chains for companies, for people, for fun, all of those things. So half of what we're doing is going towards that. We also have a big marketing budget. We have to teach that there's a new way to do blockchain, and this is the right way. And that is very difficult to do. So we have to be smart and figure out how to do that. So there's a big chunk of our marketing, of our budget goes towards marketing. And the rest is normal stuff in blockchain development, technical development, legal, listings, airdrops, and bounties, things like that. So that part of it isn't really different, but the key is the amount being spent getting people on board to this. Finally, our roadmap. So right now, when you're seeing this, we're in a bull. This project will not be complete within this bull. There's too much work to do. So this whole year is sales and development of the core technology. We already have a proof of concept of the cross-bond working. We can move funds from one chain to another chain. We want to get to a full alpha prototype of that, alpha prototype service chain technology, and an alpha prototype of our main chain. We're going to be working after this year into getting to beta versions of that, bringing on partners, spreading the word, and we intend to have public sales after the next bear, but I'm not going to predict any of that kind of stuff now. But we do think if the cycle is 4 years, we expect in the 4th year, we'll be deploying the entire ecosystem full guns, and then it will grow from there. Finally, you can contact me. This is my email address at Continuum, or you can do robert@scalix.com. That works also. Thank you for listening.